palm oil. That's what's in your butter right now. And it's the same stuff that made Canadian butter so hard in 2021 that people couldn't even spread it. Dairy farmers were feeding it to cows, and it literally turned butter into a brick. But here's the crazy part. It's still in your margarine every day, and it's linked to heart disease, potential cancer-causing contaminants, and rainforest destruction. That's just one of 5 ingredients hiding in your spreads that probably shouldn't exist. Before we go further, if you actually care about what you're eating, hit subscribe, because what I'm about to show you is going to change how you look at that innocent tub in your fridge. So here's the deal. Butter, margarine, buttery spreads. You've been eating them your whole life without thinking twice. But some of these everyday staples contain ingredients that other countries have straight up banned. And Canada? We're still allowing them. I'm talking about controversial additives that scientists are raising red flags about. Stuff linked to heart problems, lung disease, even Alzheimer's. And most of us have zero clue they're even there because the labels don't exactly advertise it. Let's expose what's really melting into your morning toast. Number 1. Palm oil. The tropical invader we already mentioned. We touched on this, but let's go deeper. Flip over a tub of Becel, Parkay, or Imperial margarine. Palm oil or palm kernel oil is right there on the label. Why? It's a chemistry hack. Palm oil is loaded with saturated fat, specifically palmitic acid, which stays solid at room temperature. That's how margarine gets that butter-like texture without using actual dairy. They're faking it with tropical fat. Remember Buttergate in 2021? Canadian butter suddenly wouldn't spread. It was rock hard even sitting on the counter. The culprit? Dairy farmers had been feeding cows palm oil supplements to boost milk fat production. The palmitic acid was passing directly into the milk, turning butter into cement. The dairy farmers of Canada had to tell farmers to stop the practice. That's how aggressively this stuff solidifies fat. Now the health part gets worse. Palmitic acid raises LDL cholesterol, the bad kind that clogs your arteries and drives heart disease. But wait, there's more. When palm oil gets industrially processed, it creates contaminants called glycidyl fatty acid esters. The European Union flagged these as potentially carcinogenic in 2018. They set strict limits, especially for infant formula. Canada? We're still casually putting it in margarine like it's nothing. Oh, and the environmental angle. Palm oil plantations are bulldozing rainforests across Southeast Asia. Orangutans are losing their habitats so we can have spreadable margarine. France actually proposed a special tax on palm oil for public health and environmental reasons. But Canadians? We're unknowingly spreading rainforest destruction on our toast every morning. This ingredient doesn't belong in daily food. Full stop. Number 2. Interesterified fats. The invisible replacement nobody warned you about. You've heard trans fats are dangerous. Canada banned partially hydrogenated oils in 2018. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Food scientists found a workaround called interesterification. They take fully saturated fat, like fully hydrogenated soybean or palm oil, and chemically rearrange its molecular structure with liquid vegetable oil. The result? A solid, spreadable product with zero trans fat on the label. Legal loophole unlocked. Check Becel's ingredients. You'll see modified palm and palm kernel oils. That's code language. Modified means interesterified. They're blending and rearranging oils to mimic butter texture without technically having trans fats. Companies slap 0G trans fat on the package and market it as heart healthy. Clever, right? Except here's the problem. A 2007 study compared interesterified fat to natural palm oil and actual trans fat. After 4 weeks of eating the interesterified version, participants' fasting blood glucose shot up nearly 20% compared to natural palm oil. 20%. Their post-meal blood sugar spiked 40% higher, and their insulin levels dropped. That's a recipe for insulin resistance, the pathway to diabetes. Another review found that high intake of interesterified fats messed with glucose metabolism, insulin response, and even liver enzymes. But unlike trans fats, there's no requirement to specifically label these oils. They just hide as modified oils. So that trans fat-free margarine you thought was healthy? It might be setting you up for metabolic problems. And there's no long-term research yet because this stuff is too new. We're basically the experiment. Number 3. Mono and diglycerides, hidden trans fat in disguise. Most people skip right past the tiny print at the end of ingredient lists. Big mistake. Mono and diglycerides are emulsifiers that show up in tons of margarines and spreads. Bessel Light lists vegetable monoglycerides right after salt. Parquet and Imperial have them too. They keep oil and water mixed smoothly, making products creamy and shelf-stable. Seems harmless enough, except it's not. Here's the trick. Mono and diglycerides are fragments of fatty acids, and they often come from partially hydrogenated oils, the same trans fat sources that got banned. But because regulators classify them as emulsifiers, not fats, they slipped through the ban. Companies can still use them and claim 0G trans fat on the label, even though these additives contain small amounts of actual trans fatty acids. Canada banned artificial trans fats in 2018. The US did the same. But mono and diglycerides? Totally legal loophole. There's currently no way for you to know how much trans fat is hiding in your margarine from these emulsifiers, and health experts are clear. No amount of trans fat is safe. It's directly linked to heart disease and stroke. If you're using multiple servings of margarine daily, those trace trans fats add up silently. Plus, these emulsifiers are highly processed, made through chemical reactions with oils and glycerol. They can even be sourced from animal fats, which is a problem for vegetarians and people with religious dietary restrictions. Bottom line, mono and diglycerides are industrial fats masquerading as harmless texture agents. They don't belong in something you're spreading on toast every morning. Check labels for these or their aliases like distilled monoglycerides and avoid them. Number 4. Artificial butter flavor, aka the popcorn lung chemical. Nothing smells like butter quite like diacetyl. That's the chemical compound responsible for buttery aroma in margarine, butter-flavored sprays, and microwave popcorn. If your margarine says natural and artificial flavors, there's a very good chance diacetyl is in there. And this one has a dark history. Early 2000s. Microwave popcorn factory workers started developing a severe lung disease called bronchiolitis obliterans. The culprit? Inhaling diacetyl vapors during production. The condition got a nickname, popcorn lung. Workers' airways were literally obliterated. The danger from inhalation is proven, but what about eating it? Diacetyl does occur naturally in real butter and fermented foods. The difference? The levels used to flavor margarine, cooking sprays, and popcorn are way higher. Canada and the US haven't banned it in food. Many popcorn brands voluntarily removed it after the factory cases, but margarine? Still there. In lab tests, it intensified the clumping of beta-amyloid protein, the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. It also inhibited a protective brain enzyme. Nobody's saying your morning bagel with butter-flavored spread will give you Alzheimer's. The exposure levels are different. But the fact that this chemical causes serious lung disease when inhaled and shows harmful effects on brain cells in lab tests, that's enough reason to avoid it. There are butter substitutes made with real dairy or natural flavors that skip diacetyl entirely, or just use real butter in moderation. Either way, you deserve to know that buttery taste often comes from a controversial chemical linked to serious health issues. Number 5. BHA and BHT, the preservatives other countries banned. Your margarine lasts weeks in the fridge without going rancid. Magic? No. Preservatives, specifically BHA, butylated hydroxyanisole, and BHT, butylated hydroxytoluene. These synthetic antioxidants prevent fats from oxidizing and spoiling, extending shelf life in spreads, cereals, chips, baked goods. Health Canada data shows that margarine is a significant source of BHA exposure for Canadians, contributing over 10% of total intake. Real butter usually doesn't have added preservatives. It's just cream and salt. But some butter-flavored shortenings, spreads, or even packaging materials might include BHE/BHT to protect the fat. Some imported margarines literally advertise high in BHA and BHT as a freshness feature. Many big Canadian and US brands have moved away from using them in retail products, touting no artificial preservatives. But generic brands, certain spreads, and food service margarine? Still loaded with them. The controversy is real. Lab studies since the 1980s showed that high doses of BHA or BHT cause tumors in rodents' forestimax. The International Agency for Research on Cancer labeled BHA as possibly carcinogenic to humans. The European Union took the precautionary route and banned both BHA and BHT as food additives. Japan and Australia prohibited them in various products, too. But Canada and the US? Still allowing them within set limits. Regulators argue that typical dietary levels are far below what caused cancer in animal tests. Health Canada's 2024 draft assessment even said BHT is not harmful to human health at current exposure, though interestingly, they flagged it as a potential environmental toxin. That review is ongoing. Many consumers and health advocates aren't buying the low-dose argument. These chemicals accumulate in our diets. They've been linked to endocrine disruption and liver enlargement in some studies. And here's the real question: why use them at all when safer natural alternatives exist? Vitamin E and rosemary extract can do the same job. For daily foods we feed our families, why accept risky preservatives that other countries banned out of caution? The good news? Many Canadian brands have removed BHA and BHT in response to consumer demand. If you see them on a label, choose another product. Your toast will taste just as good without a side of controversy. So what now? From tropical palm oil to lung disease chemicals, these 5 ingredients prove that even the most ordinary foods can hide some seriously questionable stuff. Canadian regulations allow them. But other countries' bans and ongoing scientific debates suggest we should approach them with caution. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to arm you with information. Read ingredient lists. Understand terms like modified palm oil and mono and diglycerides. That knowledge gives you power to make informed choices. Alternatives exist, spreads with simpler ingredients, or just real butter from cows fed a natural diet, used in moderation. The Canadian marketplace is slowly shifting as consumers demand cleaner labels. In the meantime, knowledge is the best ingredient you can add to your diet. By knowing what's hiding in that golden spread on your breakfast table, you can decide for yourself whether these controversial additives truly deserve a place in your daily bread. After all, butter should melt in your pan, not raise red flags about your health.